The words hung in the air of the kitchen, sharp as shattered glass. You have 48 hours to get your stuff out. Your sister owns that house now. My father stood with his arms crossed, a final, immovable statue of judgment. My mother nodded beside him, her gaze avoiding mine. And Jade, my younger sister, was already moving past me, her fingers trailing over the countertops as if inspecting her latest acquisition. At 24, standing in the home I had cared for, paid for, and loved for 3 years, I felt the ground dissolved beneath my feet. I was Sophia, the reliable one, the background daughter. And in that moment, a cold, solid resolve began to crystallize in the pit of my stomach. They had no idea what their betrayal had just unleashed. It had begun 2 weeks prior, with Jade's theatrical sobbing at our parents' doorstep after another toxic breakup. I should have recognized the orchestrated silence that followed. When summoned to their house, I found the three of them arrayed in the living room like a tribunal. Jade needs a place to stay, my mother announced, bypassing any greeting. She can't keep sleeping on our couch. Okay, I'd said, slowly. She can crash at Grandma's place with me for a few weeks until she finds something. That's when my father dropped the first bomb. Actually, we've been discussing this. Jade needs the house more than you do. You're stable. It's time you found your own place. My mother called Grandma's home, the place filled with my sweat and memories, too full of old memories. They needed to give Jade a fresh start. The air left my lungs. They'd been planning my eviction for weeks, a secret family project where I was the designated sacrifice. The following days were a masterclass in betrayal. When I questioned the $500 I'd been faithfully sending my mother monthly for utilities, my father shrugged. Oh, that? We used it for Jade's car payments. The utilities here were already covered. For 3 years, they had siphoned my money, financing my sister's life while I maintained the house. The theft was casual, spoken of as if it were a minor budgeting detail. At my mother's birthday party, she painted a picture of my saintly generosity for the extended family. Sophia is being so responsible, letting Jade have the house. When I tried to murmur the truth, my aunt patted my hand. Don't be selfish, dear. Jade's having a hard time. Selfish. The word echoed as I watched Jade host a raucous party in my living room, telling her friends I was finally moving out. Upstairs, my jewelry box was lighter. Grandma's pearls, my silver bracelet, gone. I borrowed a few things, Jade said, her voice dripping with dismissive entitlement. You weren't wearing them anyway. I retreated to my coworker Janet's spare room, a sanctuary from the unraveling of my life. Janet, wiser and battle-scarred from her own family wars, listened as I spilled the story. Honey, she said, her eyes narrowing, this doesn't just sound cruel, it sounds illegal. Her words ignited a spark. For 3 years, I had been the quiet, dependable one, but that reliability had a backbone. I had documented everything, every utility transfer, every receipt for repairs I'd funded, every gallon of paint I'd bought to refresh Grandma's walls. During lonely lunches, I'd researched property law and tenant rights, a quiet hobby born of a desire to understand my place. And then I remembered the dusty box of Grandma's documents I'd found in the attic, a trove of old papers my parents had overlooked. Most crucially, I remembered Mr. Richardson, Grandma's gentle, sharp-eyed estate lawyer. His secretary put me through immediately. Sophia, he said, his voice grave, I was wondering when I'd hear from you. Have your parents discussed the property transfer with you? What transfer? The long pause on the line was all the confirmation I needed. I think we need to meet. Meanwhile, my family's arrogance peaked. Jade posted endless house transformation content online, painting over Grandma's vintage wallpaper with sterile white, swapping antique fixtures for cheap modern ones. The final blow came when I drove past the house and saw strangers loading Grandma's cherished antique china cabinet into a truck. Jade was selling my history, piece by piece. That sight severed the last fragile thread. It was time. Mr. Richardson, with the documents I'd preserved and the ones from his own files, laid out the truth. Grandma's will had a specific overlooked clause. The house was to go to the granddaughter who maintained residence and cared for it for a minimum of 3 years after her passing. I had. Jade had not. The transfer my parents orchestrated was a fiction. Furthermore, my documented payments and improvements had strengthened what Mr. Richardson called a very compelling claim for equitable interest. We planned our move for the night of Jade's grand housewarming party, when the entire family and her social circle would be present. I needed witnesses. Walking through my own front door that Saturday evening, with Mr. Richardson a steady presence behind me, felt like stepping into a distorted dream. The party was in full swing. Laughter died as I entered. "Sophia," my mother's voice was a panicked whisper. "What are you doing here?" "I live here," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet. Jade emerged from the kitchen, wine glass in hand, annoyance etched on her face. "Can you not cause a scene for once?" Mr. Richardson stepped forward, opening his briefcase. "I'm afraid it's you who are causing the scene, Miss Mitchell. This property transfer was never legally completed. According to the will and documented proof of residence and maintenance, this property legally belongs to Sophia. You, Jade, are the one who needs to vacate." The room erupted in a wave of shocked murmurs. Jade's glass shook in her hand. "This is ridiculous. Where am I supposed to go?" "Back to Mom and Dad's townhouse," I said, looking at my parents, "the house whose locks you helped them change to keep me out." My mother sputtered about cutting me off. I finally laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Cut me off from what? Your debts? Your drama? The family that's been financially and emotionally stealing from me for years?" My father, red with fury, boomed, "You're our family. You can't do this." "You did this," I said, my voice finally steady. "When you planned behind my back, when you stole my money, when you let her sell Grandma's history." I turned to Jade. "Which reminds me, every item you took, Grandma's jewelry, the furniture, the china cabinet, needs to be returned in full within the week, or Mr. Richardson files a police report for theft." The party imploded. Guests left with hurried, awkward excuses. Relatives who called me selfish weeks ago now offered stammered, hollow apologies. My parents left last, a defeated trio. My father turned at the threshold, his eyes burning. "This isn't over, Sophia." I met his gaze, the cold resolve in my stomach now a pillar of steel. "Yes, Dad," I said quietly, "it is." 6 months later, I'm writing this from my grandmother's sun-drenched living room, my living room. The legal process affirmed Mr. Richardson's assessment. The house is mine, free and clear. I carefully restored the wallpaper Jade painted over, found period-appropriate light fixtures, and rebuilt the home's soul. The relationship with my parents is a distant, strained thing. They call occasionally, usually when they need something, but the dynamic has irrevocably shifted. Our conversations now happen on my terms. Jade moved back into their cramped house, and from the faint echoes I hear, the drama of 3 adults in a small space is the fresh start they deserved. I've learned to set boundaries. Family gatherings are optional. Holidays are my choice. For the first time, I understand that family respect isn't a birthright, it's a mutual contract, earned by how you treat one another. I learned to honor the quiet, steady part of myself, not as a weakness, but as a source of immense strength. It was that quiet girl who kept every receipt, who researched the law, who remembered the lawyer's name, who had the courage to walk back into the lion's den with truth as her only weapon. The silence in this house no longer feels like loneliness. It feels like peace. It feels like freedom. I wake up every day in a home I earned, fought for, and protected. And sometimes the greatest family you can have is the one you build for yourself, starting with the person you become when you decide to stop being quiet and start speaking your truth. If you've ever been underestimated, silenced, or betrayed by those who should have protected you, know this: your records are your armor, your resilience is your power, and sometimes the quietest people have the loudest strength when it counts.